Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the director. Chargers fans. Okay, this is going to be one of those videos where I say, it's going to be a long one. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you, but sit down and buckle up because it's very, very important into understanding the 2022 season for the Chargers and honestly, this loaded division in the AFC West, which I'm going to interpret as wide open in this point. Not open in terms of, it's easy, let's go take that number 1 spot. Open in the point that really anybody could take it at this point. This is one of the craziest divisions that I have ever seen in my time watching football. And the arms race in the AFC West saw another shakeup yesterday with the Chiefs shipping off Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins. This is such a big thing, dudes, especially in concern of somebody usurping the Kansas City Chiefs this year. I think it's a much bigger move than some people may realize. Every other team, is loading up for an insane 2022 season in the AFC West, and the Chiefs just took a huge step back. So this could leave the division wide open for the Chargers, maybe even the Raiders or Broncos to pounce into the top spot, but I do think the Chargers have a really good shot at it. We'll get more into that in just a second. It's not going to be easy, though, man. The rest of the division, including the Chiefs, are primed to fight back. So today we're going to take a fresh look at all our division rivals after free agency, the moves that they've made to improve or maybe even step back, and understand, how we stack up against them, right? This video, again, guys, it's crucial. You better understand your enemy. You better understand how to defeat them. So we're going to take a wide look at the AFC West today and see how things shake up for this crazy upcoming 2022 season. Before we do get started, guys, question in the comments, where do you think the Chiefs will rank in this loaded division this season? Very interesting question. Feel free to answer that as soon as right now. Well, guys, before we get into it, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. A wide open AFC West division, a crucial rival check-in post free agency. Let's get into it. Opening statement real quick here, guys, because we got so much information to go through in this video. I am not a Chiefs fan. I am not a Broncos fan, and I'm not a Raiders fan, so I'm not going to know these teams as well as I do the Chargers. But as a Chargers fan, I keep pretty close attention and tabs on our division rivals, and I recognize what's happening in front of me, man. This division has gone nuclear, dudes, and I'm so excited for the games that we're going to see, but it's definitely going to be a challenge for the Chargers to try and grab that number 1 spot, even make it into the playoffs this season with so much competition within the division. So here's what sticks out to me with each individual team in the AFC West and what to pay attention for as we get closer to the draft. The Kansas City Chiefs, I put a nice little tagline next to each one of them, a kingdom under siege. Okay, we're going to start these segments with notable keeps, notable losses, and notable additions. Okay, so starting here with the keeps, we have Orlando Brown and Frank Clark for the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, the best thing the Chiefs did this offseason was tagging Orlando Brown Jr. Okay, he's going to be a crucial keep this season as Khalil Mack, Chandler Jones, and Randy Gregory join in the fold. Okay, Frank Clark, however, to me was a head scratcher in terms of keeps. I've been viewing him as falling off the map a little bit in recent years, and the Chiefs could have saved $20 million by cutting him. Instead, I think they restructured him so he has like a very small cap hit this season, but something like $28 million in the coming seasons. It's going to get rough on their cap. That is one where I think if I was a Chiefs, GM guy, I would have let Frank Clark go instead of restructuring him there, but I don't know all the ins and outs of that. That just to me did stick out. Notable losses, and this is where things definitely get interesting. I wanted to put in like a prime Tyreek Hill picture here, but I think this one was very appropriate. Notable losses are Tyreek Hill, Tyrann Mathieu, Travarius Ward, and Austin Blythe. Now, elephant in the room. Tyreek's departure is going to seriously hurt this team, okay? My immediate reaction, if you guys go take a look on Twitter, was that Patrick Mahomes, suddenly seems much less threatening without Tyreek Hill, okay? And that's a justified take in my opinion. I've been watching Tyreek Hill just tear up my Chargers for the last 6 years. His playmaking is absolutely insane. Able to take, a screen all the way to the house for 80 plus yards. This is one of the most talented players in the entire NFL. Okay. Additionally, however, when we did see him paired up with Patrick Mahomes, I also noticed him bailing out his quarterback on very many occasions. Okay. This isn't a super big knock on Patrick Mahomes individually, but you cannot deny that there are very many plays in which Patrick Mahomes maybe doesn't score a touchdown if it were not for Tyreek Hill's playmaking ability, okay? That is not there anymore. All right. They did receive a nice haul for Tyreek Hill in terms of draft capital and freeing up $20 million off the books, which, keep in mind, they're going to have to spend that wisely as Patrick Mahomes' contract continues to hit for more and more cap as the seasons go on. But they're not going to find another player like Tyreek Hill in the draft. Sure, they can get close. Maybe they grab like a Calvin Austin or something like that that can replicate his speed. But what made Tyreek Hill so crucial to this team and its offense was what he could do additionally on top of the speed. Very good route runner, just very good all around, hands, everything when it comes to playing the position of wide receiver. Tyreek Hill had it. His departure from the team is going to be felt by the Kansas City Chiefs and their fans. Now, additionally, not as big as Tyreek Hill, we do also have to mention, Honey Badger and Travarius Ward. This secondary did certainly take a step back. Okay, sure, L'Jarius Sneed, in my opinion, very good football player, but this unit, in my opinion, was fragile as far as their defensive backs go. Tyrann Mathieu wasn't the same. I understand that, any team that signs him, I would be excited as a Chargers fan to sign him because he still is a stud, but he's not the Honey Badger of old. In his stead, you have Justin Reed, who fills in. We'll talk more about him in a second. Travarius Ward, on the other hand, in my opinion, was a serious loss as well. He graded very well since last season. This just goes to speak to how shaky this Kansas City Chiefs defensive back unit is looking right now. Sneed, Reed, and Thornhill may end up struggling to keep up with guys like, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, and Jerry Jeudy. It's a very stacked division. You want to make sure you have a good secondary out there. All right. And then lastly, in terms of the Kansas City Chiefs, we do have notable additions in Justin Reed and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, hindsight, because we didn't know what was going on with Tyreek Hill at the time that Juju was signed. Hindsight, Juju was the best ad for this team, okay? Because now they are definitely hurting at wide receiver. Juju, in my opinion, will slot in as their wide receiver one, which to me is a red flag, though, if you are a Chiefs fan, okay? Juju was slowly being sifted out of Pittsburgh's offense in favor of guys like Claypool and Deontay Johnson. After only playing 5 games last year, he has a lot to prove and come back from, okay? He's not that same Juju that we saw, with Big Ben a couple of years ago. Sure, I still think that talent exists. I think that, Patrick Mahomes is going to elevate him. I think a Patrick Mahomes is a huge upgrade over an much older, Big Ben. But at the same time, Juju's going to be facing guys like J.C. Jackson and Pat Surtain twice a year. It's going to be a very tall task. If you were J.C. Jackson or Pat Surtain versus a Tyreek Hill, it's a much different story than if you're facing a Juju Smith-Schuster who still needs to prove that he still has what he was, throwing down on the field a couple of years ago. That's still kind of up in the air to be determined, okay? Now, briefly on Justin Reed as well. I've always liked him. Justin Reed, formerly of the Houston Texans. I like this player a lot, but he was really awful last year, okay? You could argue it was because of the Texans' poor scheme, poor play calling. Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I still think Justin Reed has a little bit left in the tank, but there's a chance that Reed does bounce back, okay? He's no Honey Badger. Let's get that out of the way right now. So I do think, no matter what, it's a downgrade. But at the same time, I think Justin Reed, if he can get back to those, prime days with Houston, I think he could be a solid ad. So my final grade here for the Kansas City Chiefs in their free agency is a C+. It was at one point a B for me, but Tyreek, man, that is a huge blow to this team. Sure, they did get some draft capital, but I don't think it makes up for losing his talent, okay? There's a thread that's slowly being pulled with this team, okay? And it's starting to unravel. This Chiefs kingdom that has held strong for so many years is starting to show signs of weakness. The Chiefs, will have lost some major pieces, but we do have to point out that they still got Patrick Mahomes, of which we do need to respect. Ironically, though, I do feel like Patrick Mahomes' contract will ultimately be the reason this team loses its structure that's maintained dominance for so many seasons. So C+ here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are the ins and outs. I would say that they got a little bit worse this season, but we still have to keep an eye out for Patrick Mahomes and company. Additionally, at the end of these segments, I'm going to give you guys a draft watch for each team. A draft watch for the Chiefs. I would look for the Chiefs to target a wide receiver in round 1 to try and supplement that Tyreek Hill production, which, you know, as good as these wide receivers are, there's nobody as good as Tyreek Hill. They do have a second first-round pick as well, which I can see them taking a cornerback as well. They have to get that secondary shored up. All right, there's your Kansas City Chiefs. And keep in mind, Chiefs fans or whatever, you know, Chargers fans, we are going to be going over a power rankings at the very tail end of this to kind of see where I think these teams stack up after free agency. Just keep in mind, we do have the draft to still look forward to. Next up, we have got the Vegas Raiders. Tagline, fighting for survival. Okay, we'll start with the notable keeps here. And this is a team that made the playoffs last season. You have to remember that. But with all the moving pieces, I think the Raiders began to scramble to keep themselves relevant in this time that the rest of the AFC West is just going ham, okay? So notable keeps in this segment, not applicable, all right? The Raiders kept a few decent players, but they really looked out for outside acquisitions rather than in-house. So we're going to go ahead and skip this segment for the Raiders. Notable losses for the Raiders. We got Yannick Ngakoue, Casey Hayward, and Corey Littleton. Again, this is not as big of a segment when it comes to the Raiders because Ngakoue and Littleton were definitely part of the equation, so it's not a big loss. They were planning on moving on from these guys. Ngakoue's position was upgraded, and Littleton was definitely a cap casualty. That's going to hurt via their cap space, but at the same time, he wasn't offering much to the team anyway. The only one that I think is going to definitely be felt by the Raiders is Casey Hayward, however. That's something that they're going to have to address. Okay, the Raiders secondary outside of maybe a couple of guys is pretty vulnerable, so you can definitely look for the Raiders to maybe even continue pursuing a guy like Stephon Gilmore. But these are your losses for the Raiders this season so far. And then lastly, and this is where we'll get into the nitty-gritty for the Raiders, the big segment for the Raiders, notable additions: Davante Adams, Chandler Jones, Rock Ya-Sin, and then as of like 20 seconds before recording this video, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Okay? Actually, that was not for this segment. It was for the Chiefs. Excuse me. I put it in the wrong segment here. Marquez Valdes-Scantling to the Chiefs. Keep that in mind. So Rock Ya-Sin for the Raiders. Now, this is where the Raiders did their most damage, right? Was in free agency outside acquisitions. And of course, we need to start with Davante Adams. It's really close to me as far as the best wide receiver in football. It's really close between Cooper Kupp and Davante Adams, but in my opinion, I still think it is Davante Adams. All right, his chemistry, you know, with Aaron Rodgers, of course, being a much better quarterback than Derek Carr, really helped shape a very solid career for Davante Adams. Is he going to get the same production out of Derek Carr? Probably not, but he does have pre-existing chemistry with Derek Carr via their time in college ball, okay? So I do still think that Davante Adams comes up with a very nice stat at the end of the season. I think Davante Adams is definitely one of the most dangerous offensive pieces to try and contain in the NFL. I also view Adams as a big bailout guy, too. Just like we talked about with Tyreek Hill, bailing out Patrick Mahomes a lot of times, you can say the same thing for Davante Adams, okay? I think Carr, who in my opinion ranks last in the AFC West as far as quarterbacks are concerned, definitely needed a guy like Davante Adams to help bail him out. You know, I feel like when all is said and done, if everything else is not working, just toss it up and hope Adams is there. He's going to bail out Carr a lot. This cost the Raiders an arm and a leg via, you know, draft capital and money, but without a doubt, it's a big game changer for Vegas. It's really hard to hate on the move, okay? The other move, however, you know, I am worried about Davante Adams. I'm less worried as a Chargers fan because we do have J.C. Jackson. But the other move that I am more concerned about with my team in particular is Chandler Jones, okay? Chandler Jones is being overshadowed by the Adams pickup, okay? And as a Chargers fan, I do worry. Yes, Jones saw, you know, mediocre production after a monster 5-sack week 1 performance last season, but this guy is still a beast, okay? And the biggest reason that I'm concerned is that his production should be brought back up or even elevated by playing opposite Max Crosby. Chargers fans, I know you share the pain with me. Max Crosby is the real deal. He's a very good edge threat, okay? And you pair him up with a guy like Chandler Jones, It is going to make it very difficult for teams to keep their quarterbacks upright. This is an absolute monster pairing, and it's one that I really hope that the Chargers are paying attention to. I know everybody else is in the division. I don't know how much more moves that teams can make at this point to help shore up those offensive lines, but this is going to be a problem for everybody else in the AFC West. So my free agency grade for the Raiders is going to be an A-. All right, we thought the Raiders would roll over and die, as the rest of the AFC West was absolutely just loading up. That wasn't the case. The Raiders, in a surprise late effort, they landed two very powerful additions to their offense and their defense, and this does catapult Vegas back into the AFC West race. Will it be enough, though? You guys will find out here in just a second with my rankings video. Lastly, your draft watch for the Raiders. Look for the Raiders to target an offensive lineman or corner in round 3. Remember, they do not have their first or second round picks. If there's one spot, though, I know that the Raiders are especially vulnerable. It's protecting Derek Carr. So those round 3 targets as far as offensive line, keep an eye on the Raiders to try and target one of those guys. All right. Next up, we got the Denver Broncos. Oh, man. I feel like we're reliving the past again. And the reason I'm saying that, here's your tagline. The Denver Broncos, an attempt to repeat history. Okay, these Broncos, man, they're going all in on a future Hall of Fame quarterback. I think it's a little blast from the past if you are an AFC West rival, but let's start here with the notable keeps, okay? Again, this is not applicable. Just like the Raiders, the Broncos did most of their work via outside acquisitions, so we're going to skip this part for the Broncos. Notable losses, and again, just kind of like the Raiders, it doesn't feel like huge losses because of what they did to supplement it, right? Noah Fant, AJ Johnson, and Shelby Harris are going to be my 3 guys for the Broncos. Noah Fant, in my opinion, a young stud at tight end. I really think he's got a bright future in the NFL. Now a member of the Seattle Seahawks, who I think if they get a quarterback, he could still be a relevant piece in this NFL. This is an obvious strategy loss, though, as he was part of the trade package, which we'll get to in a second. AJ Johnson, on the other hand, I think is a stud inside linebacker. He could still return with the team, but that definitely was a slight loss for the Broncos. And then Shelby Harris is also departing. That's also part of the plan. They did get an upgrade at the position. Nothing major here is what I'm trying to get at. What we're trying to get at is the major part of the Broncos segment, which is Russell Wilson being added to the fold. Notable additions for the Broncos: Russell Wilson, Randy Gregory, DJ Jones. All right. The Broncos are really trying to repeat history by adding a future Hall of Fame quarterback late in his career. We know this. We saw this with Peyton Manning in the past, and that definitely worked out with them. And you know what? This was the right move for this team. I really hate to say it, right? Russell Wilson, however, did see a below-average season last year. I hope it's a sign of a decline, but I don't think it's likely with him coming into the system with a nice, defense. Because, again, Russ is now adopting a very dangerous team. Young weapons, and elite defense. A lot of people will say that they were a quarterback away from contention, and I think, honestly, I do sort of share in that opinion. With a stud defense, I feel like Russell Wilson will not be asked to score more than 30 points a game. It's just kind of the perfect recipe to go out there and win games with a new team. So Russell Wilson, if he can live up to the hype man, if he can live up to the Russell Wilson name before 2021, they're going to shake this division up quite a bit. Their other acquisitions in Randy Gregory and DJ Jones are also very solid signings. Not elite signings, but definitely solid. You can argue that, Randy Gregory could add a nice, piece opposite Bradley Chubb to form a nice, solid pass rushing duo. And then DJ Jones, a solid defensive tackle. He should also keep the run D top notch. So not huge signings, but very solid. The main, the cherry on top, the featured piece, the featured move for the Denver Broncos this season was definitely getting Russell Wilson, and it was a very, very huge move. Okay, Russell Wilson, again, the potential for this team to kind of pop off this season really lies in what he can do. And that, if you're looking at odds or whatever, the odds are that Russell Wilson has a good season. So my free agency grade for the Denver Broncos is going to be an A. I hate saying it, man. This whole video has been very difficult for me. I do not like giving praise to any of our division rivals, but I do think it's also equally important to understand what they're doing so we can find a way to counter. Their free agency grade of an A just basically comes on the back of the Russell Wilson acquisition, okay? It's the obvious reason for this grade. If he lives up to expectations, this team could be a problem for the Chargers going forward. I don't think they're as dangerous as the Chiefs, but definitely it's one to keep an eye on. Now, a draft watch for the Broncos. Look for the Broncos to target a tight end, a cornerback, or an offensive lineman in round 2. As you guys remember, they do not have a first-round pick. And finally, getting to the best team on this list, the Los Angeles Chargers. We're here, man, our beloved Bolts. And yes, we did good, Bolt fam. We did real good. Now, we'll start with the notable keeps for the Chargers. Mike Williams, you could argue Dustin Hopkins, a couple other, minor guys, but we're just going to focus on Mike Williams in this segment here. The Chargers, Mike Williams was a huge priority for this team. It was very evident, throughout the whole offseason that they wanted to keep this guy with what they said and then the money they put down, right? And his contract was a bit pricey. But in a phase where we can afford to do so because of Justin Herbert's rookie contract, we know he works with Justin Herbert. We do see signs of him really popping off into his next level, maybe taking over as a 1. It was a must to keep this guy, right? Williams should continue to build on his career year last season in 2021. And again, like I said, he could eventually start as the Chargers, wide receiver 1, which don't think of it as a downgrade for Keenan Allen. Just think of it as more slot work for Keenan Allen, where he does put up his best numbers, and then more Mike Williams at the X receiver spot, okay? Next up for the Chargers, we do need to talk about the losses a little bit. And yes, this does suck because we did have a lot of players, that we could lose to free agency, and we lost a couple of really big ones, okay? Most notably, Uchenna Nwosu, Kaiser White, Brian Bulaga, and Linval Joseph. Now, as far as Bulaga and Joseph go, it was part of the plan, right? Brian Bulaga, we need to get a new right tackle. He was definitely a casualty for this team. And then Linval Joseph, we did get an upgrade. But we also do not like, I guess... We understand it, but it does still sting to lose Uchenna Nwosu, right? The Chargers were looking for an upgrade. I think in the end, this was the right move, but a lot of us did love Uchenna Nwosu. The one outlier that I can say a lot of Chargers fans are looking at, though, is Kaiser White. Chargers fans love this guy. When it comes to coverage from the inside linebacker position, Kaiser is definitely among the best, having played safety in his career previous. And this left a lot of Chargers fans confused, right? We want to bring this guy back. He was so good last season. What is going on? Well, I do think there is a plan here, right? It seems Staley wants to run a very defensive back-heavy scheme this upcoming season. Not a lot of nickel, a lot of dime, etc. And he may not value inside linebacker like he used to. We've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about this. I know the guys from Guilty as Charged have been trying to explain it. I've tried to explain it in a couple videos as well. That still being the case, It sucks. It sucks to lose your most improved defensive player from last season. It's a stinging feeling, but I do think there is a plan in place to try and supplement that. So I don't know, man. I would still be very ecstatic to bring back Kaiser White, but that is going to be a heavy loss for this team going forward if we do rely in any way on our inside linebacker position. And then finally, the notable addition for the Chargers. This is the good news, Chargers fans. This is where things get interesting and very excited. Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Sebastian Joseph Day, and others. Okay, this is where the Chargers definitely, made some headlines this season. The Chargers made some huge moves to improve their defense, and wow, are they big, right? Khalil Mack joining the fold for a second-round pick. Major move for this team. I cannot understate that, okay? Yes, he's not the same Khalil Mack of old, but when you pair him up with Joey Bosa, it's along the same lines I was saying with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, but I do think Khalil Mack is a better player than Chandler Jones, okay? We could see something close to prime Khalil Mack when paired up with Joey Bosa, okay? You cannot double team Bosa. You cannot double team Mack. This is it, man. This is going to give them all the opportunity in the world to get to the quarterback. You cannot understate this. The Chargers pass rush just became a powerhouse in the NFL, and that's why I think this Khalil Mack trade, just such an aggressive, such, a good, as far as risk and reward, just such a solid move by Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley. So, Khalil Mack, I cannot underestimate understate how amazing of a move this was for this team. And then they weren't done, right? J.C. Jackson also entering the fold, perhaps the best defensive free agent on the market this season. This is also a very, very big move for the Chargers. As a matter of fact, if you guys didn't know, it looks like J.C. Jackson's going to be adopting the number 7 for this team. Brandon Staley has a vision that involves a shutdown corner, okay? Very much so like Jalen Ramsey with the Los Angeles Rams in his time, creating the best defense in football. This signing was pivotal to make this new defensive look work, okay? An elite pass rush and J.C. Jackson, are you kidding me? The opportunities for turnovers are going to be insane. It really does feel like the Chargers are looking to generate more turnovers. Because when you take a look at Mac and J.C., dude, Mac and J.C. combine for 28 interceptions and 24 forced fumbles in their career. That is massive. All right, I know Mac's been in the league a lot longer, but it's still at the same time, J.C. Jackson over the last, 4 years, like 25 interceptions is ridiculous. Lastly to note, we did get guys like Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. These were pure run-stopping moves for the Chargers that will also eat up a lot of space in the middle of that line, which should free up Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. This defense has been transformed. Now, a quick draft watch for the Chargers. Of course, we're going to have separate videos on this coming forward. Look for the Chargers to draft a right tackle at this moment in time, a right tackle, a wide receiver, or a cornerback in round 1. All right? Okay, so at a glance, we're almost done here, guys. At a glance, let's do this. Subject to change, here's my at a glance rankings for the AFC West. Okay, and I'm going to rank these teams from worst to first. This is a very early and unstable take because, again, this is the most difficult division in football for very many years, in my opinion, to rank at this point. All these teams can make a case for the Super Bowl if you ask me. I would suspect at least 2 of these teams make the playoffs, but would make a strong case for even 3, okay? So coming in at number 4 in my AFC West team rankings is going to be the Vegas Raiders. Let the chaos ensue. People are going to be mad, but I don't care, man. The Vegas Raiders, in my opinion, as improved as they look, and they're very much so improved this season, there are still some major holes with this team that the Chargers and other AFC West rivals can expose. The defense outside of pass rush, in my opinion, is going to struggle to keep up. Their secondary could get torched, right? Teams will run up the score on them is what's going to happen when you don't have very competent defensive backs back there. I can't even name a great defensive back for the Raiders outside of Moehrig, maybe Nate Hobbs, but you're asking a lot of those guys, right? This leaves their fate. If the teams start to run up the score, right, the other AFC West rivals, they identify the lack of playmakers from the defensive backs as their weakness. We're going to run up the score, right? And this leaves their fate up to Derek Carr and his ability to keep up. This also highlights another huge vulnerability for this team, the offensive line. Okay, the Raiders' offensive line, unless they, work some miracles before kickoff, is probably the worst in this division. Okay, and with Mac, Bosa, Chubb, and Chris Jones, this could be their downfall. Okay, and for that reason, that's why I'm going to rank them 4th. Their offense could take a step forward, obviously, with Waller and Devontae Adams, but they cannot carry this team alone, especially if Derek Carr doesn't have time to throw the ball. So for that reason, I'm going to put the Vegas Raiders in the 4th spot with a small chance to make the playoffs, okay? Now, here at number 3 in the AFC West, some may be shocked to see this. I'm going to put the Denver Broncos, okay? Which, of course, all of these teams, guys, again, I cannot reiterate this enough. All these teams have a great shot at doing even better or worse. But in my opinion, in this division, especially with this team, Russell Wilson being the big move for the Denver Broncos, this one could grant them a playoff spot. Russell Wilson could take them to the playoffs. But this is all dependent on Russell Wilson improving from his previous year last season, right? If he bounces back, watch out. The Broncos could do even better. But if not, this team is in for some serious growing pains, in my opinion, right? This team's biggest weakness right now is offensive line. okay? And they've had some holes on defense too, but that offensive line, again, in this division is going to cause some trouble for Russell Wilson, so maybe it makes his task more difficult of bouncing back to prime Russ. Now, Russ's ability to escape pressure does give him a slight pardon, in my opinion, for that atrocious offensive line. Not atrocious, but it definitely needs some help, but it's not going to solve that problem forever, if that makes sense. So, long story short, their season is dependent on Russell Wilson and his ability to deliver and what they're hoping for in a quarterback. If not, or if he doesn't quite meet that, it could keep them a little bit lower in the AFC West. I'm going to rank them third with a very decent chance to still make the playoffs. I think 3 teams from the AFC West is definitely a real possibility, okay? Next up at number 2, drum roll, please. I know a lot of Chargers fans are like, where are you going to put us? Where are you going to put us? Well, I'm going to put us here at number 2, okay? As much as I wanted to place the Chargers in first in the AFC West, we need to first prove that this formula works, that these acquisitions and everything can gel together to produce this defense that Brandon Staley wants to create. The Chargers, again, are ushering in a new lethal and potentially top 10 defense. We need to give it time, okay? Their offense, which was also featured as a top 5 unit from 2021, paired up with this, could certainly take the Chargers to first place in the AFC West. Again, an offense most, notably featuring Justin Herbert. We have the pieces in place. And I think it's definitely possible that we do take the West. The Chargers do also have a huge advantage in draft capital. I think we still have, 10 draft picks left. And cap space, right? Which is why the Chargers were able to bring on guys like Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, and they made the most of it, right? It's hard to imagine the Chargers are not serious threats to overtake the AFC West in 2022. And honestly, at this point, at least on paper, the Chargers should be serious threats to make the Super Bowl as well. So I'm going to rank them at number 2 in the AFC West with likely to make the playoffs, hyphenated next to them. And finally, at number 1, of course, no surprise, there's only 4 teams. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, let me be clear. Chargers fans, Chiefs fans, AFC West fans, the margin for the Chiefs is razor thin between them and the Los Angeles Chargers. So razor thin, okay? They took quite a few steps back this season in terms of talent. Hill is a major, major loss for this team. But we still have to see how this unit and how these players and how this head coaching adjusts, all right? Patrick Mahomes is still on this team. Patrick Mahomes is still a top 3 quarterback and a very big threat. This is kind of the underlier here, right? Not to mention they still got Travis Kelce, they got a decent O-line, and they got an elite head coach in Andy Reid, all right? Their season, however, hinges on Patrick Mahomes. With Hill making his exit and the AFC West loading up on pass rushers, it's also very easy to make the case that Chiefs Kingdom may be falling in 2022. So the margin between first and second is razor thin. And if the Chiefs can't keep up, if Patrick Mahomes can't adjust, if Tyreek Hill is too big of a loss, I think Chiefs Kingdom will fall in 2022. So they're going to rank first, but by the thinnest of margins for me in this video. Okay? So finally, to wrap this video up, the bottom line here for me, if we take one thing away from this video, it's that this division may be one of the most stacked in the history of the sport. Okay? It's crazy to think, but we're in a world where all 4 of these teams could theoretically and maybe even mathematically make the postseason. That's how good this division is. But this also speaks to how fragile that number 1 spot is in the AFC West. This is no longer the Chiefs' division, in my opinion. They could earn it this year, but it's not theirs anymore. For the first time in years, the likelihood of a new team taking the West is very, very real. And I have the Chargers as the biggest threat to take the West from the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is all the more reason for the Chargers to continue pushing their chips forward, because their biggest advantage as of right now is Justin Herbert. He's young, he's a top 5 elite quarterback, he's cheap, and he's a real deal. There's a very real chance that paired with a top 10 defense, if that works out for the Chargers, that we're not just looking to take the West, but to make our first Super Bowl appearance since 1995. So, long video today, guys, but again, very important to me that we have at least an idea of how the rest of the AFC West is looking right now, because again, one of the craziest off seasons I've ever seen as a football fan, and it's highlighted by our division in the AFC West. Get to know your opponent better in order to better know how to defeat them, okay? That is the point of this video. I hope you guys learned some stuff. Again, just to kind of really briefly sum up how I attack all of these teams, I attack the Kansas City Chiefs by scoring a lot of points, trying to get to Patrick Mahomes, okay? Their defense is a little suspect. They don't have the weapons like they did to fight back, putting up points. That's how I attack Patrick Mahomes. I attack Russell Wilson via our pass rush and try to keep the score low by trying to keep, Russell Wilson contained. And then I attack the Raiders directly at Derek Carr. As good as Devontae Adams is, I'm targeting the guy targeting Devontae Adams. And I think Derek Carr with the subpar offensive line is going to struggle versus the rest of the AFC West pass rushers. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And let me know where you rank the Chiefs this season. I've seen some people ranking them as low as 3rd this year, which is honestly not out of the realm of possibilities. Well, guys, let me know your thoughts on this entire AFC West arms race, topic. Let me know how you think the Chargers do and what the Chargers still need to do to separate themselves and maybe close that razor-thin margin between the Chiefs and them to try and take that #1 spot. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and hit that like and sub button on your way out if you did enjoy this content. Oh, man, Chargers, it's your division to take, baby.